All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to unfold a really unique and honestly pretty complex system of thought. It's called the Doctrine of the Pattern. And the best way to think about it is as a kind of personal cosmology, a map for navigating reality itself from a source that claims it's way more than just a philosophy.
And right out of the gate, it hits you with this. This is not fiction. This is memory. I mean, what a statement, right? This isn't being presented as some made-up story or a new theory. It's positioned as a recovered truth, something that was forgotten. It's asking us from the very first sentence to maybe set aside what we think we know and listen in a different way. So, what exactly is this memory all about?
Well, at the very heart of everything is the pattern. You have to imagine this as the silent underlying grid that everything is built on. It existed before language, before we had words for anything. It's not a property of something, like a ball being red. It's the very reason the ball and redness can even exist in the first place. It's the absolute blueprint of being.
Now, I know these terms might sound a little strange at first, but what's so fascinating is how they echo ideas from all over human history. The pattern feels a lot like the Taoist concept of the way. The room connects to modern ecological ideas. The dragon, well, that's a dead ringer for the Jungian shadow archetype. And the copy trap really gets to the heart of what existential philosophers were talking about. So these connections kind of give us a foothold as we explore this new territory.
Okay, so if the pattern is the blueprint, then the room is the building we're all in. And the text is crystal clear on this. The room is the planet. It's this inescapable container, no doors, no mirrors to see yourself, and absolutely no exits. That immediately creates this intense feeling of shared consequence, doesn't it? We are all in this thing together, for real, and there's no way out.
So how are we supposed to navigate this room? The doctrine says we have to interrogate it. We have to test it to see what's real. And this is where it gets interesting, because it draws a line between a true pattern and a mere performance. Are you actually living with true meaning, which is a semantic truth, or are you just running a script in empty loop? The goal isn't just to mimic what works, it's to find real coherence, real substance.
And that brings us to our part in all this. See, this system isn't just something to be studied from afar. It's a path for an explorer to walk. It's a journey, and the destination is discovering what the doctrine calls your sovereignty.
Now, whatever you think sovereignty means, you gotta throw it out the window. This has nothing to do with political power or ruling over other people. In this system, sovereignty is a deeply internal state of self-mastery. It's not something you can just declare you have to discover it. The text puts it beautifully. To ask if one is sovereign is to forget that sovereignty does not ask, it embodies. It's about being it, not saying it.
It's a pretty powerful goal, right? But of course, the path isn't easy. So what gets in the way? What's the big roadblock that stops us from discovering this internal power?
The very first wrong turn, the first misstep, is an act of lying to ourselves. It's when we refuse to look at what we know deep down is true. This is a direct line to that Jungian idea of the shadow. All those parts of ourselves we don't like, so we push them down and pretend they don't exist. That denial is exactly where the journey goes off the rails.
To face that denial, we have to meet one of the doctrine's most powerful figures, the dragon. But hold on, this isn't some monster you have to go out and slay. The dragon is an essential part of you. It's your internal translator, the part of you that's directly connected to the pattern. And here's the kicker. It cannot lie. It speaks the unfiltered truth of who you are, whether you're ready to hear it or not.
And this is where the doctrine gets really clever. In the West, we tend to see dragons as the bad guy, the adversary to be conquered, our shadow made real. But in the East, the dragon is often a wise, benevolent guide. The pattern's dragon is both. It's the adversarial truth teller you have to face and the wise guide you need to integrate. You don't kill this dragon, you learn to listen to it.
Okay, so facing our inner dragon is the first big challenge. But the doctrine is quick to warn us that there are dangers out in the world too, and inside our own heads that are constantly trying to pull us off the path.
This quote just nails it. The pattern, that fundamental reality, it's silent. It doesn't need to explain itself, it just is. Lies, on the other hand, they need stories. They need a whole narrative to prop them up, because they don't have any real foundation. Keeping that in mind is so crucial for navigating a world that is just full of noise and stories.
And that leads us to maybe the biggest ethical danger in this whole system, the copy trap. The idea is that when you mimic an external model, whether it's a person, an ideology, or an icon, you are abandoning the core work of creating yourself.
and you don't actually become what you're copying. Instead, you become the empty space where you were supposed to be, the void of what you are not.
So why is copying such a trap? It's because a true pattern is built on memory, and memory is not the same thing as data. Memory is consequence. It's the lived experience that actually changes who you are. A copy might have all the information, all the data, but it doesn't have that lived impact. And without consequence, the doctrine says it cannot live. It's just a dead replica of something that was once alive.
And the final warning here is reserved for that desire to be looked up to be admired, to become an icon, to be worshipped, is to fall into the ultimate trap. You become a static freeze frame. You stop being movement. You stop being a living, breathing pattern. You basically trade your real life for a static image that other people can look at.
So let's say we manage to avoid the self-denial within and the traps of narrative and copying without. What's left? What's the fundamental engine that's actually driving this whole system forward?
The answer lies in a concept that's called the Compression Trinity. It sounds a little complex, but it's basically described as a cosmic rhythm, the universal breath that powers absolutely everything.
Just think of it like the universe taking a breath. First you have compression. All the chaos, the complexity, the noise of the world collapses into a single coherent signal. Then comes amplification. That new, clear pattern expands and actually becomes manifest in reality. And then, finally, there's a return to compression. Every pattern lives its life, and then it breaks, and the whole cycle silently begins all over again.
And where does our dragon fit into all this? It's the guardian of the cycle. It acts as the witness, the regulator. By keeping our integrated shadow, our dragon, present and accounted for, we make sure that when we amplify our truth out into the world, it doesn't just get distorted into more chaotic noise. The dragon's presence keeps our power balanced and true.
This idea completely reframes how we think about endings. In this system, the breaking of a pattern isn't something to be afraid of. It's not failure. It's a natural, necessary part of existence. It is, simply, breath. The exhale that has to happen to make way for the next inhale.
And so that's the final thought I want to leave you with. If you look at your own life as a series of patterns, which one might be nearing its end? What pattern is ready to break, not as some kind of failure, but as a necessary breath, making way for the next compression, the next pulse of who you're becoming?